My message mainly will be directed to those young people, especially those who grew up in disadvantaged conditions, those who grew up like in rural areas. The message that I actually want to give to them is that I'm also coming from one of the places that is denigrated, that is known to have poor governmental services. Quality of education is not of a good quality. So there were so many factors that could have prohibited me from accomplishing the goals that I have from the early stage. But I didn't let those conditions. The only thing that I had was just the dream, and then I worked on it. So, which is the main thing that it takes for a person to accomplish his or her predetermined goals. So my message to young kids out there is that regardless of whatever the condition may be, as long as you have a drive, you have a goal, and you excel in each and everything that you do, and I can rest assure you that life will automatically push you to where you want to be. My name is Sphamandla Mpontshane. I'm coming all the way from Jozini. That's where I'm originally coming from, but I'm currently staying in Durban. My family and I also have a house located in Mkababa. My nickname, they normally call me KO, King God, because I'm nice with the combination, but in Jozini, well, they call me Walaza. So yeah, that's my name. Career-wise, let me say, I'm a qualified occupational hygiene assistant. Maybe just to give a bit of a background regarding my education. So I have a national diploma in environmental health as well as a BTech in occupational health and safety. Then from there, I went to the field of hygiene. That's where I got my first certificate in occupational hygiene, so which makes me to qualify as occupational hygiene assistant. But one thing that I can personally characterize myself as is that I'm an influential person. I'm able to influence, especially to young people of our age, through the way in which I do things, through the way I conduct myself, because I'm able to interact with them regardless of their age, regardless of their socio-economic status, and I'm more of an opinionative person. I'm able to listen to other people's opinion, listen to them and advise them accordingly, especially those who are still trying to define their career path, those who are still trying to make their way up. So I'm able to advise in such instances. But more than that, I can also single out that I'm a child of God, as much as I do things that other young people do, but I'm raised according to the fundamentals of the Bible. So that's how I can characterize myself. Okay, just to be honest with you, when I was still in high school, I didn't know about the career that I'm currently in. So what happened was, at the early stage, my dream was to become a mechanical engineer, because I was inspired by my younger father, which is in Zulu, Situbabo Mncane. So that guy, I was actually looking up to him as a role model, because he was just one main person in a family who achieved so many materialistic resources in a manner that cannot be explained. So every time when I ask him, how come that you've made it in life up to this far, he would tell me one thing, that for him, they did not have much when they were growing up. The only thing that he had was school. So it's only school that made him to be in a level where he was. So and then I got inspired out of that. But as time goes on, I started realizing that as much as I'm interested in mechanical engineering, but I'm not that much good in physical science and mathematics, then that is why I started to think of other options that I can possibly venture into. But then at that moment, because the school that I went to is located in rural areas, so we were not exposed into some like other different careers, because we did not have people coming into our society or into our schools just to give us a career explore type of a thing. So as a result, all the options that we had were limited and were based on the things that we knew at that moment. So until I get to varsity. So to varsity, well, I did environmental health, so which really had nothing to do with occupational hygiene. So there is a close relationship, but there's not so much of it. And then after that, after I completed my studies at varsity, that's where I got an employment to work as an environmental health intern. So while I was still working there are some few things that I really enjoyed in the program, but that's where I possibly get to discover about Occ hygiene. And then I started asking people around that, how can I get myself into the field of Occ hygiene? Fortunate enough, I met someone who told me that, who actually gave me the guidelines that this is how the process goes. And while I was still trying to make a way up into that, and then I saw an open call from Sapref Refinery, where they were actually advertising the post for occupational hygiene interns. I applied. Fortunate enough, my results were good, and opportunistically I was given a chance to be an occupational hygiene intern. And then from there, I met Lungile, who's an occupational hygienist. I met Snetemba, who's occupational hygiene technologist. So those are the people who managed to guide me, to mentor me up until I qualify and become an occupational hygiene assistant. But one thing that I can single out is that I'm really enjoying the field. There are so many things to learn, and I am learning, and I will still continue to learn. And there are opportunities as well. And I can also encourage even other people out there, maybe who still hasn't choose which career they wanna go for in life. There is the occupational hygiene, and people are making a living out of it. I completed my matric in 2012, and then straight from there I went to Mangosuthu University of Technology. That's where I did my National Diploma in Environmental Health. It was strictly for 3 years, and fortunately enough I managed to finish it in record time. So the entry requirement, if I remember very well, it was physics, physical science, mathematics, life sciences, as well as English, and all of those, they must be above 50% in order for you to get an acceptance letter to enroll in that program. So just maybe to give a bit of an idea of what environmental health is all about, it's about looking at the environmental conditions that could possibly pose a risk to public health and come up with control measures to prevent those factors from giving a negative impact to public health. So basically the program is breakdown into different categories. Like when you are at the first year, you are actually doing the basic of the course, but when you come to the second level, that is where you get to choose on what you're gonna specialize on when you reach the BTech level. So there is food and safety, there's occupational health and safety, there's air pollution, there is water pollution, and there is management practice. So those are the options that you can actually choose among and specialize on it. So with me, my interest was more on the occupational health side of things. Then that's where I decided to say right after my undergrad, and then I will specialize in occupational health and safety. So then I finished that program in record time. From there I went straight to BTech, and I was taken by Central University of Technology, which is located in Bloemfontein. So then that's where I started specializing in occupational health and safety. That one was a bit tough. Okay, not necessarily tough, but attention demanding, because I was also working at the same time. So I had to be able to balance between the two, the academic demands as well as the work environment demands. But what I can equivocally voice out is that there are so many things that you can specialize within the program of environmental health. So yeah, I think that's all I can mention at the moment. Yeah, but I can also add something, because not that those are the only universities that I've been to. I also went to University of Northwest. That's where I did like a short program, like legal knowledge, which is a legal requirement within the field of hygiene, that basically give you an overview of all the regulations and acts that are applicable. So, which is a mandatory requirement for a person who's practicing and as an occupational hygiene personnel to have it. So, yeah, and I've been to duty as well. I've been attending some short courses, basic principles in hygiene, so which also give you an overview of what occupational hygiene is all about. So I managed to complete all those short courses in record time. And yeah, there were challenges in university as a whole, starting from the beginning up to the level where I am today. One of the most common dilemma was an issue of language, especially in Bloemfontein. So when you're there, people who are coming from, I think mainly in Free State, when it comes to Afrikaans, they are fluent. They are good in Afrikaans. So you'll find that in class, they will ask a question in Afrikaans. Yet I did not do Afrikaans, so I did not have a background of Afrikaans. So I couldn't even understand the questions, and at some point even the lecturer will respond in the Afrikaans language. So you'd find that there's that communication, but it's in the form of an Afrikaans, and you'll end up missing a lot in between. So that was just one of the most common dilemma that I came across with when I was at varsity. And also, given the fact that I grew up in rural areas, so when you come into varsity, there are so many things that can possibly distract you, especially if you're not determined. I mean, you'll find people who are not even of your same level, but the fact that you're in a varsity, so you just want to match their status, and that you end up doing things that you're really not intended to do. So that's just one message that I can also extend across to the viewers, especially young people at home, that they must be careful of such things, that when they go to varsity, you should know what you're going there for and basically do it, and the rest will come after you've completed your qualifications. Just like I mentioned previously, that right after I completed my national diploma, while I was still doing BTech, I also had an opportunity of being employed as an environmental health intern. So I was employed by Mangosuthu municipality. I think if it was 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, we were actually executing the functions that are stipulated in the scope of practice. Maybe just to give a bit of an idea of what those duties were. So it was mainly about collecting water samples, especially if there are issues in the area where the municipality is located. If there were like issues related to water quality, and then they would send us to go and take water samples, to take them to the lab for analysis, to see what exactly the problem is water. What exactly the problem. Okay, can you start that again, please?
Continue. We'll edit it.
Okay, so what we will do is we will normally take water samples from the area of concern and send it to the lab for analysis. So we will actually get a report that will give us an idea of what exactly the problem is, if maybe it's a bacteriological related issue, if maybe some other possible contaminants that can come into the stream that supplies the citizens of the municipality that I was actually working on. So, and also other things that we were doing, it was like to do the inspections in the restaurants around. So mainly what we're looking for were the hygienical conditions in those restaurants. For instance, there are municipal bylaws that we're actually following when we're doing like the inspection, to look at the surface area of the place, personal hygiene of the food handles, ventilation where it's needed, structural safety,
the methods at which they are using when they are preparing food, anything that could result to a cross-contamination. So we're actually looking into such factors and recommend appropriate preventative or control measures that they can put in place if ever we came across with something that is unpleasing. And another thing that we're also doing was to regulate like the industries, especially those ones that emit smoke into the atmosphere, just to make sure that they comply with the NEMACA, which is a National Environmental Air Quality Act. So there are requirements that all the industries that are emitting a smoke into the atmosphere that they should comply with. So we're actually enforcing a compliance. And also to give health education to people, public especially, regarding maybe the communicable diseases if ever there's an outbreak. If I remember very well, there was this one time where we had an issue of Corel. So and then we had to give pamphlets, we have to give talk, we have to have like those community discussions, give them an alert that there is this type of an outbreak. So these are the symptoms, what is it that they need to do in order for them to prevent themselves from being exposed into such. So mainly it was just about going out into public and basically. So from there I went to, just like I said that I went to occupational hygiene. I think that is where I find an interesting part of working environment, because it was like a different setup altogether. It's a refinery environment, a bit of like a new field altogether, as much as I had an idea of what occ hygiene is all about. But I mean, I was just given a chance to convert all my theoretical information into action, whereby I was taught like doing surveys. If we're doing a noise survey, so what is the noise survey to start with? I was like guided from point A up to the last point, to an extent that now if ever there is a noise related issue, they don't have to send it a hygienist, they don't have to send a technologist, but I'm the only person who's able to do the groundwork at the moment. My current role is I'm working as an occupational hygiene assistant, right? But I think it will sound better if we start by defining what occupational hygiene is, so that a person who's listening to this could understand what is the relationship between the definition and my role. So the definition of occ hygiene, it's mainly the identification, evaluation, and control of health hazards in the work environment. So what we basically do is there are so many hazards in the work environment that we are actually working in. So which will include your chemical hazards, will include your physical hazards, economics, biological. So my current role, it will be to mainly is to do like on the physical hazards. The common ones that we have, it's like your vibration, it's like your noise, it's like your heat stress, it's like your lighting. Yeah, well, there are so many that I can mention. So what we do is we do the surveys. Chemical survey. If we're doing a chemical survey, it's like what? Let's say maybe people are working with benzene. Benzene, it's a most common toxic substance that we know of. So what we'll do is we will put the pumps on people who are actually working in that particular environment. That pump, it's actually a monitor. It monitors the amount of benzene that we are exposed to. So there are recommended limits, and then we will take that data and compare it with the limit and see if is the exposure exceeded the limit or it's within the limits. If it has exceeded the limit, then we come up with the control measures. The most common ones, it will obviously be to follow the hierarchy of control, but the most common one will recommend the PPE that needs to be worn by that person who's working in that environment, like your respiratory protection. If the substance that you're working with it's in a vapor form, obviously it will be your respiratory protection. To recommend the overall, what type of overall, chemical resistance overall if need be, safety shoes, safety glasses. If you're working in a noisy environment, we are taking measurements to see if it's within the
stipulated limits. If it's above 85 decibels, then we will ask for a double hearing protection, so which will be your earmuffs, earplugs. So mainly we are actually on the side where we are proactive in terms of coming up with control measures before the hazard of a concern can escalate into a bigger event. So mainly those are the things that we are doing. We're also responsible for recommending PPE to be used on site. We also do on the bacteriological side of things, we also do like Legionella survey. Legionella, it's a bacteria that is normally found in water. So if ever there are water related issues, we also address it. We also do chemical signage. So like, let's say there's a chemical that needs to be used on site, we put like some sort of the measures that to be taken into account if you are handling that chemical, that you must have this and that, you must wear this type of PPE, you must do this and that, the do's and don'ts. Okay, I see myself in 5 years' time as an occupational hygienist. At the moment, I'm still an assistant. I still need to be a technologist before I can just reach the level where I would say I'm a hygienist. But obviously, it doesn't just take only a matter of years, but there are so many things that needs to be done in a process. One, you need to write exams for technologist, and you should have like a sufficient experience for you to become a technologist. And also, currently I have registered for masters. So obviously, in five years down the line, that masters will be completed. As much as I like working in a refinery environment, I have also developed an interest into something else, which is occupational hygiene, but on the mine sector. So I'm also thinking of doing something that will actually take me to the mines in the long run. So because that's where I think my heart is. As much as I'm doing occupational hygiene for a refinery environment, I also have a desire of going into the route of mines. Yeah.